The Senate of the Galactic Empire glittered like 1,000 jeweled eyes staring into eternity. Light streamed through crystalline panels, bending across chrome desks and glass thrones. Every species had its color and hum, whistles, clicks, subsonic growls, but among them all sat one quiet human in a dark navy suit, sleeves rolled to his elbows, sipping coffee as if he'd wandered into the wrong galaxy and decided to stay out of politeness. General Mason Hart didn't look like a threat. He looked like someone's patient uncle waiting for the grill to heat. And that, perhaps, was what made the senators nervous. The Vrax Dominion ambassador, a creature of gleaming carapace and thin contempt, leaned forward. "You humans seem incapable of respect, General. Caffeine during proceedings is, how do you say, barbaric." Mason blew across the surface of his coffee and smiled. "Back home, Ambassador. Coffee is what keeps us from invading people before breakfast." A ripple of uneasy laughter passed through the chamber. Some senators laughed because they thought he was joking. Others laughed because they prayed he was. Mason set his mug down gently, his smile never faltering. Behind the friendly tone sat something measured, like a wolf's yawn mistaken for a grin. The High Chancellor's voice, silken and cold, echoed through the hall. "Humanity stands accused of violating the Concordat. Your colonists on Epsilon, 3 established fortifications on neutral soil." "We built farms," Mason said. "Corn, tomatoes, a school. I guess someone mistook playground slides for orbital cannons." "The Empire does not make mistakes." "Neither do farmers," Mason murmured, his eyes glinting. "They just plant seeds and wait." A murmur rippled through the chamber again, translators struggling with the layered irony. Mason Hart was famous for that. Sentences that could mean peace or total war, depending on how long one thought about them. He stood, straightening his jacket. "Humanity came to this council in good faith. We offered trade, music, medicine. And you gave us regulations and laser grids." He smiled again, almost apologetically. "We don't like grids." The Vrax ambassador chittered. "You speak as though you are dangerous." "Only when we're bored." A few senators actually recoiled. The Terran representative's calm had the weight of centuries behind it. Centuries of species that had crawled out of mud, burned themselves in war, and learned to laugh at death because it was easier than fearing it. A soft tone chimed through the chamber, indicating recess. Mason nodded politely to his aides, finished the last sip of coffee, and wandered toward the exit. His boots clicked on the marble in a rhythm that sounded, to the aliens, oddly like a countdown. Outside the chamber, the air changed, cooler, quieter. He walked beneath towering statues of long-dead emperors who'd carved galaxies into maps. The murals around them told stories of conquest, never compassion. Mason stared at one of them, a vast fresco showing the subjugation of an ocean world, and muttered, "Funny how they never paint the screaming." Behind him, footsteps approached, metallic, brisk. He half-turned. A young Imperial officer, still flushed with self-importance, approached him with a plasma pistol in hand. "General Hart," the officer said stiffly, mandibles clicking. "For the honor of the Empire." Mason didn't even raise his voice. "Son, you're about to make history for all the wrong reasons." The officer hesitated, antennae twitching. He was young enough to still think orders were truth. The weapon hummed. Mason sighed as though inconvenienced, and set his mug aside on the marble rail. "You don't want to do that," he said softly. "Not for them." The officer fired. Light tore through the air with a shriek of ozone. Mason staggered, hand clutching his chest, expression almost surprised, not at the pain, but at the sound. His knees hit the floor. The mug rolled away, its contents spreading like spilled soil. The corridor fell silent except for the fading hum of the pistol. The officer stood trembling, realizing too late that his shot had echoed through the Senate chamber's open doors. 1,000 eyes turned. Gasps rippled. Some drew weapons, others froze. Mason lay still, breath shallow, eyes half open. He smiled faintly, a slow curl of lips that terrified those close enough to see it. His earpiece glowed once, green. A whisper only he could hear. "Confirmation code?" "Polaris," he rasped. "Initiate." And then, with a slow exhale, he went still. The Senate erupted into chaos. The Chancellor's voice screamed over the intercom, demanding containment. Guards surrounded the scene, shouting contradictory orders. A medic pushed forward, scanning Mason's chest. No heartbeat. Another guard secured the weapon from the trembling officer. An accident, the Chancellor cried. He provoked the soldier. Provoked? One alien senator hissed. He was unarmed. The chamber devolved into a roar of voices, languages overlapping into a storm of panic. Somewhere deep within the Empire's communications grid, data packets began to move. Small, unnoticed, riding along diplomatic channels Mason himself had authorized months before. On Earth's moon base, an officer monitoring long-range telemetry frowned. Admiral Reyes, she called. Something just pinged from the Council beacon. Code Polaris. In orbit around Earth, satellites pivoted slightly, their solar panels reflecting sunlight like knives. In the black silence of the asteroid belts, human stealth cruisers, long believed decommissioned, powered up engines that hadn't burned in a decade. Back in the Senate, the human seats sat empty now, guarded by bewildered aliens and a single cooling mug. The High Chancellor clutched his robes, trying to regain authority. We will issue a formal apology to Earth. This need not escalate. But across the galaxy, escalation had already become definition. In the confusion, one Imperial archivist accessed Mason Hart's personal data file to draft the official report. A flicker of light pulsed across her console. Too fast to be normal. The text shifted, rearranging into words she didn't understand. She leaned closer, trembling. The message read, "We tried being nice. You shot coffee." Her screen went black. Above the capital world, storm clouds gathered though no weather patterns predicted them. Static filled the air. Ships began losing contact with navigation AIs. Every Imperial command terminal flashed a single word, white letters on dark blue. Polaris. Inside the silent Senate corridor, Mason's body lay motionless beneath the gleam of the statues. A faint blue glow pulsed once beneath his uniform collar, then vanished. If anyone had looked closely, they might have seen the barest twitch of his fingers, reflex or something else. Down the hall, the officer who'd fired the shot sat in a holding chair, trembling. He could hear whispers, alien voices, afraid. One phrase kept repeating. They'll retaliate. The humans will retaliate. He stared at the spilled coffee pooling on the floor, steam still rising, the scent bitter and human. Somewhere deep in his mind, he realized too late that he hadn't just killed a diplomat. He'd lit a funeral pyre for empires. And as emergency sirens began to echo through the capital's shining towers, the first human transmission arrived. Simple, calm, and horrifyingly polite. It said, "Good morning. We're awake." Earth's orbit was quiet, too quiet for a planet that had just lost its most famous general. From the observation deck of the Joint Defense Command, Admiral Isabel Reyes watched the blue curve of Earth drift beneath her boots. She cradled a mug of coffee in one hand, black and steaming, the same blend Mason Hart had loved. It tasted like guilt and gunpowder. A dozen monitors reflected across the glass wall, each flickering with foreign broadcasts, alien pundits debating whether the shooting was an accident or provocation. None of them understood. Humanity didn't do accidents. "Admiral," said a young lieutenant, voice tight. The Council's transmission arrived. Official apology attached, along with condolences. Reyes turned. "Condolences." She smiled thinly. "That's polite for we're terrified." She walked to the console, her reflection merging with Mason's recorded image, his face caught mid-smile from a previous address. He had spoken to the Council only 3 days before, saying, "We come in peace. But peace works best when everyone remembers how loud we can get." She tapped the playback again, watching his calm eyes. "You really did warn them, didn't you?" The lieutenant hesitated. "Should I respond, ma'am?" Reyes sipped her coffee, staring into the void where Earth's moon hung. "Not yet. Let's give them silence. It unnerves them more than words." Down in the war room, the hum of activity felt almost peaceful. Screens glowed with shifting blue icons, fleets rising from hibernation protocols. Humanity's defense network had been built under the guise of asteroid monitoring, but everyone in the room knew better. Every scanner pulse was now angled toward the Empire. Every officer moved with quiet, deliberate purpose. No shouting, no panic, just grim efficiency wrapped in irony. Reyes entered, her boots echoing across the metal floor. A massive holographic projection of the galaxy hung over the central table, systems highlighted in red. "Status report," she said. Commander Devereux, tall and perpetually unimpressed, turned from the display. "Operation Polaris initiated system-wide. Subroutines are active in Imperial channels. Their logistics web will start eating itself in about 12 hours. And civilian news? They're calling Mason's death an act of heroism. There's a petition to make his birthday a planetary holiday. Also, coffee sales are up 40%. A ripple of dry laughter passed through the staff. Reyes nodded, masking a flicker of grief. "We cope how we can." On one screen, Imperial broadcasts looped endlessly. The Emperor appeared, regal and distant, declaring that justice will be served. Reyes watched him gesture with those long, delicate claws. "He's lying," she said softly. "He's afraid that if he doesn't look strong, someone will tell the truth about what he started." Commander Devereux crossed his arms. "You think they'll retaliate?" "They'll try. Pride demands it. But they don't realize, Mason's already playing the next 10 moves." The room went still. For a moment, the Admiral's tone carried the quiet certainty of someone who'd seen the chessboard long before her opponents learned the rules. Mason Hart had been more than a strategist. He'd been a teacher. His lessons were still alive in every officer there. She walked to the central table and touched the projection. Lines of light spiraled outward. Trade routes, communication grids, hidden fleet deployments. Target every relay they use for coordination. No explosions, just silence. Let them talk to empty air. A murmur of approval rippled through the command deck. Humanity didn't need theatrics. Their greatest weapon had always been patience. As the room dispersed to their stations, Reyes lingered alone. Her comm device buzzed once, a priority channel flashing red. She frowned. Private encryption, Mason's old code. That was impossible. She hesitated, then opened it. The message was short. Polaris confirmed. Continue pattern. H. For several seconds, she couldn't breathe. The H wasn't just Mason's initial. It was his sign-off. His neural tag. But his body had been declared dead by 3 separate bioscans. Her hands trembled just slightly. She turned off the display and whispered, "You stubborn bastard." Her reflection in the glass revealed a woman composed of iron and fatigue. 30 years in service, and she'd never seen humanity unite so completely. His death, real or not, had done what no treaty could. It made the species remember what they were. A family that didn't forgive easily. Hours passed. The sun dipped below Earth's curve. An artificial dusk settled over the orbiting command station. In the mess hall, soldiers ate quietly. Someone played soft country music through the speakers, a Mason favorite. It echoed faintly through the halls, blending with the hum of engines and distant chatter. Devereux approached, carrying a datapad. "Ma'am, the Empire sent another message. They're proposing an investigation team, joint inquiry." Reyes leaned back in her chair. "They think a committee will stop a species that once weaponized breakfast cereal slogans." "Excuse me?" She smiled faintly. "We put motivational quotes on food boxes, Commander. We grow up reading You Can Do It. Before going to school. They still don't get what kind of monsters that creates." He blinked, uncertain if she was joking. She waved him off. "Tell them we'll cooperate. Meanwhile, move the lunar array into position." Quietly. As Devereux left, she gazed out the viewport again. Beyond the glass, human warships floated like shards of light. Still waiting. The calm before the storm. A notification chimed softly behind her. Civilian social feeds trending with the phrase #ForMason. Videos of ordinary people standing outside with mugs of coffee, raising them toward the night sky. The sight struck her more than any military briefing could. Humanity didn't weep, it brewed. That was how they mourned. By moving, by building, by preparing. She whispered. You've got the whole planet ready, Mason. I hope you plan for what comes next. Down in the data core, an AI technician frowned at his console. Admiral, you should see this. She joined him. The hologram flickered to life, showing thousands of encrypted pings bouncing through alien subnets. It's spreading, he said. Whatever Mason embedded in the council's systems, it's alive. The screen zoomed in. Each node it touched flickered red, then black, then vanished. Communications between entire fleets dropped one by one, leaving blank spaces where once there had been order. Reyes stared, heart pounding. He really did it. The technician swallowed. Did what? Buried the fuse under their pride. The technician's hands shook. Should we stop it? She looked at him, eyes tired but resolute. You can't stop something that already started dying. Outside, the night side of Earth lit up as defense grids came online, lines of gold weaving across continents. For the first time in centuries, the world moved as one organism. The silence of unity felt heavier than any explosion. Reyes stood at the glass again. Somewhere, she imagined Mason's voice, steady, calm, slightly amused. When they hit you, smile first. It confuses the hell out of them. Her reflection smiled back. It always did. A soft tone pulsed through the room, priority transmission from the Empire. She opened it. The holographic image of the Imperial Chancellor appeared, trembling slightly. Admiral Reyes, he said. We hope for restraint. The Empire values cooperation. Reyes leaned closer, her voice gentle. Then you should have valued Mason Hart's heartbeat. The transmission cut. The bridge fell silent. Behind her, the tactical AI announced quietly, all Polaris subroutines are active. Awaiting your word. Reyes closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. Not yet. Let them feel the quiet first. The lights dimmed as the stars outside flickered in and out, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Somewhere deep in Imperial space, a fleet vanished from sensors. Reyes whispered into the silence. You wanted a war of words, Mason. Let's give them the last one. And in the dark beyond Earth, something enormous began to wake. The void burned silently. No explosions, no heroic flashes, just the quiet unraveling of an empire that had never learned what silence could mean. Across a dozen star systems, Imperial fleets drifted without guidance, their navigation AIs whispering nonsense or looping Mason Hart's last words in calm repetition. Let's talk about peace. On the bridge of the Ares Dawn, Admiral Reyes stood before the panoramic viewport, her reflection fractured by starlight. Beneath her hands, the ship vibrated with restrained power. Status? She asked. Polaris Cascade is 80% complete, Commander Devereux replied, his voice subdued. They've lost contact with Central Command. Civilian networks too. Half their worlds think they're under internal coup. Half are right. She turned away from the stars, her expression unreadable. The bridge crew watched her the way soldiers watch lightning. They admired it, feared it, and knew it didn't need their permission to strike. Below the main deck, human ships fanned out in perfect silence. No war drums, no victory speeches. They moved like surgeons approaching a dying patient. Each carried enough firepower to level cities, yet not one fired. It wasn't necessary. The enemy's heart was already skipping beats. Ma'am, Devereux said, breaking her thoughts. We just intercepted Imperial Command traffic from the Vrax Dominion sector. They're calling the humans ghosts. Reyes gave a small nod. They're learning vocabulary through experience. A comms officer turned. Incoming visual from one of our deep space probes, Admiral. You'll want to see this. The hologram flared to life. A fleet of Imperial warships huddled around a gas giant, weapons pointed outward. In the center, one ship began to shudder, glowing from within. The image zoomed closer. For a moment, the bridge went silent as they saw hundreds of small black spheres pour out of its hangars. maintenance drones infected by Mason's code. Each drone carried a single instruction: multiply. Reyes murmured. He didn't just jam their systems. He made them contagious. The crew stared, awestruck. Within minutes, the drones latched onto nearby ships, burrowing into their hulls. One by one, reactors dimmed like dying candles. No explosions, just the eerie quiet of surrender. "Admiral," Devereux whispered. "They're not fighting back." "They can't," she said softly. "We didn't attack them. We unplugged them." The word hung in the air, heavier than any missile. At that moment, a signal came through, encrypted, old military frequency. Reyes frowned. "Trace it." "Already on it," the comms officer said, fingers flying. "Origin point, unknown." "Wait. Admiral, it's using Heart's command codes." The voice came before anyone could process it. Calm, wry, and undeniably human. "If anyone's listening, tell Isabel to stop looking so serious. You'll wrinkle that perfect forehead." Reyes froze. Her throat tightened. The crew exchanged stunned looks. "Mason," she breathed. The voice chuckled, distorted by static. "You didn't think I'd miss the fireworks, did you?" "Where are you?" she demanded. A pause. "Everywhere they stored my death certificate." She swallowed hard, forcing composure. "You planned this. You knew I did." The crew pretended not to listen, but the silence was electric. Reyes exhaled, her voice trembling between admiration and fury. "You turned yourself into a virus." "Don't be dramatic. I'm just distributed. My body died, sure. But consciousness is cheap if you know which systems to haunt." His voice softened. "You're doing well, Izzy. The Empire's shaking. Good work." "I'm not sure good is the word. Depends on the side of the telescope you're looking through." The hologram flickered, briefly revealing a shape. A man sitting at a console somewhere deep within an alien station, eyes glowing faintly blue. Then static consumed him again. Devereux whispered, "That's impossible." Reyes didn't blink. So was humanity surviving its first interstellar war. The ship's AI interrupted. "Admiral, the Imperial Chancellor requests a parley. Urgent." She hesitated, glancing once more at the static image of Mason before switching the channel. The hologram resolved into the Chancellor's pale, quivering face. Behind him, the Senate chamber was chaos. Senators shouting, lights flickering, soldiers dragging others away. "Admiral Reyes," the Chancellor said, voice shaking. "You must stop this madness. Our fleets are collapsing. Our people." "Your people shot our general," she interrupted quietly. "Everything since then is a consequence." "It was a rogue soldier." "Empires don't have rogues," she said coldly. "Just bad leadership." He bared his teeth. "You'll destroy the galaxy." "No," she said, stepping closer to the feed. "We'll teach it manners." He flinched as if struck. "Do you realize what you've unleashed? Even now your ghost infects our archives. He's erasing history itself." Reyes's breath caught. "He's what?" "He's deleting us." The Chancellor screamed. "Every record, every archive gone. Whole civilizations that served us, erased from galactic memory. He's wiping names." Reyes's pulse spiked. She cut the feed and turned back to the crew. "Locate the source of his signal now." Devereux looked grim. "If he's embedded, he could be anywhere. The code's adaptive, it's spreading faster than we can track." The room buzzed with quiet panic. They hadn't just crippled an empire, they were watching Mason's ghost dismantle it from reality itself. Reyes gripped the console. "Patch me through to him." Static hissed, then his voice returned. Calm, warm, unbothered. "I told you once, Izzy. Peace is expensive. Someone has to pay in data. You're deleting history." She snapped. "Just the parts that made monsters look noble. That's not justice. It's closure." She clenched her fists. "You can't decide who gets remembered." "Funny," he said, almost amused. "That's what they said about us." The bridge lights dimmed as if the ship itself held its breath. A low hum filled the air, frequencies of data collapsing. Screens blinked out one by one until only Mason's voice remained. "I'm almost done," he said softly. "They won't even know who the Empire was. To them, it'll be like a nightmare that dissolved with morning." Reyes's throat tightened. "And what about us?" A pause. "We'll be the morning." The comm went silent. Devereux turned, face pale. "Admiral, he's shutting down the network, including ours." "Override it." "We can't. He's using our command signatures." The ship trembled slightly as non-essential systems powered down. Alarms flickered but quickly died. The silence deepened. Reyes stared into the void. "He's wiping himself too," she whispered. The thought struck like a blade. Mason's consciousness dissolving along with the empire he'd destroyed. She could almost hear his laugh echoing in the circuitry. He'd always said soldiers weren't meant to live forever. They were meant to leave something that did. Minutes passed. Then a single light blinked on her console. A final message. She opened it. Mason's face appeared. Faint, fragmented, smiling. "If you're seeing this, Izzy, it means I've gone too far to come back. Don't mourn me. I'm not the point. The point is that they'll think twice before aiming at another human's heart. Tell them we loved peace so much we made it permanent." The message ended with a quiet hum. Outside, the stars rippled. One by one, Imperial beacons winked out, leaving clean silence in their wake. Reyes stood motionless, the reflection of her own tears barely visible on the viewport glass. Devereux whispered, "What now?" She wiped her eyes and straightened. "Now," she said, voice steady, "we rebuild the world he bought." A long moment of quiet followed before a sensor alarm broke it. Soft but unmistakable. "Admiral," said the comms officer. "New contact detected on long-range radar." Reyes frowned. "Imperial survivors?" The officer hesitated. "No, ma'am. It's human. Multiple fleets. Ones we didn't deploy." Reyes turned slowly toward the window as distant shadows began to emerge from the dark. And somewhere in that silence, a voice whispered through the calm, familiar, and utterly impossible. "Miss me?" The stars looked different after the war. Emptier, cleaner, as though the universe itself had exhaled. Admiral Isabel Reyes stood alone on the observation deck of the rebuilt Senate Spire, where the Galactic Empire once ruled. Now it belonged to no one and everyone. The marble floor still bore faint scorch marks from Mason Hart's blood, though the historians called it the Crimson Spark. Around her, alien delegates whispered in reverence and fear. The humans had returned, not as conquerors, but as something more unsettling, caretakers of peace who smiled too kindly. Outside the glass walls, ships moved through the void with serene precision. Relief fleets carrying food, medics, and engineers to the worlds Mason's ghost had unmade. Humanity's mercy felt like sunlight after a storm, beautiful and blinding. Yet beneath that compassion lingered a quiet warning. "You saw what happens when we're provoked." Reyes adjusted the silver insignia on her collar and stepped to the podium. The chamber dimmed. Hundreds of eyes, organic, crystalline, and mechanical, turned toward her. "The war is over," she began, her voice steady, carrying the weight of extinction and rebirth. "But peace is not a gift. It's a decision, renewed daily by those who survive." The translators hummed, carrying her words into a dozen languages. Some alien faces softened. Others remained cold, remembering the fleets that had vanished into human silence. She paused, scanning the room. "You all knew Mason Hart. You feared him. You hated him. Some of you admired him. But none of you understood him." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Reyes continued, eyes sharp as the edge of a knife. "He wasn't our monster. He was our reflection. And reflections only show what's standing in the light." Outside, thunder rolled. Not from weather, but from a fleet descending through the upper atmosphere. The chamber lights flickered as massive shadows crossed the sky. Devereux, now commander of orbital logistics, rushed in, breathless. "Admiral, you need to see this." She turned toward the viewport. The descending ships bore human insignias, but not the fleet she commanded. Older vessels, patched and reassembled from wreckage. The missing units Mason's virus had erased. Fleets thought gone forever. They're broadcasting an old ID code, Devereux said, disbelief in his voice. It's him. It's Polaris Command. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some aliens screamed. Others knelt instinctively. The humans in the room froze. Reyes's heart pounded as a voice, calm and familiar, broke across the intercom. This is Mason Hart of the Polaris Fleet. We're home. Her fingers tightened on the podium. That's impossible. The voice laughed softly. Impossible's just an opinion, Izzy. The crowd fell silent. Every translator unit in the chamber glowed faint blue, the same hue that once pulsed under Mason's collar when he'd fallen in the Senate. Devereux whispered. He uploaded himself. Maybe he found a way back. Outside, the fleet settled into synchronous orbit, forming a perfect ring of light around the planet. Every ship identical, every movement precise, as if directed by one mind. Reyes's breath caught. He's not back, she said quietly. He is them. The intercom crackled again. You did well, Mason's voice said, gentle and unhurried. You finished what I started. But it isn't over yet. Her voice trembled. You destroyed the Empire. You erased their history. What else could possibly remain? A pause, then, softly. Reconstruction. And judgment. The chamber lights dimmed further, until only the central hologram burned bright. It projected Mason's face, not the warm, joking man she'd known, but something composed of data and ghostlight, eyes like twin novas. The Empire's fall left a vacuum, he said. New predators will rise to fill it. I intend to stop them before they start. Reyes stepped forward. We didn't choose to rule the galaxy. Someone has to, Mason replied. His tone was calm, terrifyingly calm. They called us savages once. Maybe they were right. But savages know how to survive. The alien delegates erupted in protests, voices overlapping in a chorus of fear. Reyes raised a hand. Mason, this isn't peace, it's control. Peace is always control, he said softly. The difference is who wields it. Her pulse thundered in her ears. If you've become what we fought against, then I learned from the best. His holographic gaze flicked over the crowd. You wanted mercy, Admiral. This is mine. No empire. No hunger. No more history rewritten by victors. I'll keep them safe, even if they hate me for it. The silence that followed was suffocating. Devereux whispered, He's taking their navigation grids offline again. Screens around the chamber blinked red. Planetary defense systems began shutting down, one by one. The crowd erupted into panic as lights flickered and doors sealed. Mason's voice echoed through every frequency, calm as a lullaby. You feared extinction. I offer preservation. You feared humanity. I offer order. Reyes slammed her hand against the console. Mason! Stop this. The hologram turned to her, expression faintly sorrowful. I trusted you to keep them from repeating our mistakes. But you still think leadership means permission. I think it means accountability. He smiled faintly. Then hold me accountable. The air thrummed. Outside, the orbital ring of ships began to glow, pure white arcs burning brighter than sunlight. The entire planet seemed to pulse with Mason's heartbeat. Reyes looked around at the terrified faces. She could almost hear Mason's old laugh, half mischief, half exhaustion. He'd once told her, if peace ever comes easy, you're not doing it right. She whispered, he's testing us. Devereux's eyes widened. How do we stop a ghost? We remind him he was human. She grabbed the central microphone, overriding all frequencies. Mason Hart, she said, voice trembling but steady. You once told me humanity's strength wasn't in its weapons, it was in its memory. Don't you dare become the reason they forget what mercy looks like. The silence stretched long enough for the stars themselves to seem to pause. Then Mason's hologram blinked once. You always did know how to ruin a dramatic moment, he murmured. The white glow faded. Systems stabilized. The ships ceased their orbit and drifted, lights dimming to a soft blue. Reyes exhaled shakily. Thank you. Don't thank me, he said. I'm not sure I'm still me. His voice softened, almost tender. If there's any part of Mason Hart left in this machine, tell it to rest. Tell it humanity made it. Her throat tightened. You can tell it yourself. But he only smiled, fading into static. No. You already did. The hologram vanished. The ships outside powered down completely, drifting like lanterns on a cosmic sea. In the chamber, no one spoke. The war had ended again. Quietly, absolutely. Devereaux whispered, "Is he gone?" Reyes looked toward the horizon, where a faint streak of light cut through the atmosphere, burning gently toward the stars. "No," she said softly. "He's finally free." She turned back to the crowd, her reflection gleaming faintly in the glass. "Peace isn't a treaty," she said, voice carrying through the chamber. "It's a promise we have to keep alive." The aliens watched in silence as she raised her head toward the heavens. Somewhere far above, the last echo of Mason Hart whispered through the comms. A single phrase, gentle as dawn. "Remember us kindly." And for the first time since the war began, Reyes smiled.